The coffee on Hellion 4 tasted like heated metal and burnt disappointment. But Elias Ward drank it anyway, because it gave his hands something to do, while the universe continued refusing to be interesting. He had been alone for 6 months. Not technically alone, SDELLA, the station's AI, occupied every panel, but digital company didn't count. Every conversation eventually circled back to calibration tolerances or maintenance logs. Outside the viewport, the iron storm shimmered like a curtain of blue-white fire, eternally distant, eternally unchanged. Awe-inspiring the first week. Wallpaper by month 4. External flux variance? Elias asked, knowing the answer. 0.003%, SDELLA replied. Within expected parameters, again. He blew out a sigh, thrilling. He wandered the narrow lab, touching instruments that didn't need touching, opening drawers he'd already alphabetized by mass, and finally drifted to the wide observation pane. The storm illuminated the gas giant below in shifting blues, but even its beauty couldn't rescue the monotony. He pressed his forehead to the glass. You could at least explode, for variety. Request denied, SDELLA said. Explosion would reduce mission value to 0. Yeah, well, the docking alarm screamed through the station like a panicked bird. Elias jerked upright so hard he hit his head. SDELLA, he groaned. That better not be another phantom. Unscheduled transport approaching, she interrupted. ETA 12 minutes, passenger manifest 1. Passenger, a real breathing person. Someone whose responses wouldn't begin with analysis indicates. Elias nearly dropped his coffee. 12 minutes, you couldn't have warned me sooner. You did not ask for early notification. 11 minutes remain. He sprinted through the station, shoving stray tools into cabinets, wiping down surfaces, discovering only one shirt that wasn't stained and declaring it acceptable. He tried out a smile in the reflection of a dark monitor. It looked like someone had drawn a mouth on a sleep-deprived ghost. Okay, he muttered. Don't be weird, don't talk too much, don't mention you named the coffee machine. Regret is a poor name for an appliance, SDELLA said helpfully over the intercom. The docking clamps engaged with a metallic thud. Elias hurried to the arrival bay, straightening his jacket, forcing his face into what he hoped was a neutral, functional expression. The airlock cycled. The door slid open. The person who stepped through was not human. She moved with steady, precise grace, boots clicking softly on the deck. Her skin was a warm copper-gold tone, catching the corridor lights like polished metal. Her hair was braided back in intricate loops, and from each side of her head swept a pointed ear, elegant and subtly angled. Her eyes, that was what broke his brain, amber fractured like crystal, reflecting every lumen of the room. Lieutenant Elias Ward, she asked, her consonants landing lightly as if she were tasting them. I am Dr. Kaya Lyrin, Xenophysics Division, assigned to this research outpost. I understand you have been alone here for 6 of your months. I apologize in advance for whatever strange adaptations I'm about to witness. Elias blinked. I heard you. My brain just hasn't caught up yet. She extended her hand. He shook it automatically. Her grip was warm, confident. Please show me the primary lab, she said, and whatever keeps making that wheezing noise. That's the coffee machine. My condolences. SDELLA chimed in, sounding genuinely pleased. Dr. Lyrin, your arrival increases station conversational potential by 78%. Welcome. Kaya smiled faintly. Your AI is charming. Do not encourage her, Elias said. He led her through the corridor. She scanned every surface with quick, assessing glances, as though she were cataloging the entire station in real time. Her pace was unhurried but purposeful, like someone used to operating in environments where things break easily. When they reached the observation deck, the storm flared outside in a luminous wave. Kaya stepped closer to the glass, eyes narrowing slightly. It is beautiful, she murmured. It gets old, Elias said, then immediately regretted it. Kaya didn't turn, only if you stop asking it good questions. He found himself smiling despite 6 months of forgetting how. Well, that's the plan. She looked at him then, directly, fully, and something in his chest shifted in a way he didn't have language for. Then let us begin, she said. Show me what you've been doing. I would like to understand the storm the way you see it before I tear apart your entire system. He blinked. You're planning that already. It is inefficient, she said simply. But salvageable, probably. Great, he muttered. I missed being insulted by actual people. Kaya's ears dipped in something like amusement. Then you are welcome. The storm pulsed outside, lighting her features in shifting blue fire. For the first time in months, the silence around Ilias didn't feel like a weight pressing inward. It felt like space being cleared for movement, for noise, for something he couldn't name yet. And just like that, by the end of Kaya's third day on Hellion 4, Ilias had developed a new and terrifying respect for efficient people. He'd shown her the data wall in what he thought was a respectable state. Neatly stacked cron files, labeled by storm cycle and timestamp, color-coded by intensity. He'd been mildly proud of it. Kaya had stared at the towering holodisplay for a full 30 seconds without speaking. This, she finally said, is a crime against pattern recognition. Ilias, halfway through his morning coffee, blinked. That system has served me perfectly well for 6 months. Yes, like caves served your ancestors. It does not mean we should go back. She stepped closer, fingers lifting into the projection. Icons rippled away from her touch. You have arranged everything chronologically, as if time is the most important axis. It is an axis, he protested. Storm changes over time, we measure time, we file things in time, that's basic. Kaya tilted her head, amber eyes glinting. You live in 3 dimensions and insist on stacking your universe into one. Very human of you. Excuse me for being linear. She smiled. You are excused, your data is not. He watched as she dismantled his structure like it was a toy. Files dissolved, reappeared, clustered. Color bands he'd assigned purely for brightness became markers for gradients he hadn't realized he'd been mapping. Within minutes, the cron stacks blurred into a dynamic web. Intersecting arcs, luminous strands radiating from anchor points he hadn't named yet. Storms repeat, she said, half to herself. Not identically, but with preference. You can hear it if you stop listening only for change and start listening for motif. You can hear it. Kaya's hands were already moving through menus faster than his eyes could track. Not with your ears, with arrangement. Here, the display surged, resolving into a lattice of peaks and troughs. She highlighted certain ridges, their colors deepening. These pulses recur every 19 major cycles, she said. Stronger when the gas giant rotates this side to the storm. You logged it as background noise. He frowned because it doesn't correlate with flux spikes or because you were only asking if the storm became more dangerous. She glanced at him. You did not ask if it became more musical. Storms don't make music, he said. Not in any way we usually mean it. Kaya hummed, a low sound in her throat. Everything that repeats can be described as music somewhere. She rotated the lattice, reprojected the numbers as frequencies, then tapped the console. SDELLA, translate these intervals into audible range. The speakers crackled. A strange, eerie chord poured into the lab, rising, falling, never quite resolving, like a choir stuck halfway between sighing and singing. It wasn't pretty, not exactly, but it had intention. Ilias stared at the display, then at her. You got that from flux readings. We got that, she corrected. You captured the structure, I only shifted the viewpoint. The sound faded. For a moment, even SDELLA seemed to be listening. Noted, the AI finally said. Storm converted to sound is 43% more unnerving than storm converted to numbers. Unnerving is good, Kaya said. It means we are paying attention. She stepped back, studying the new arrangement. Ilias tried to cling to his wounded pride and failed. The web made sense, more than sense. His mind had been straining toward exactly this for months without knowing what it needed. You just reorganized 6 months of work in 20 minutes, he said. 9 hours, she corrected. You missed some while you were asleep in the chair. He flushed. I was resting my eyes. For 4 of your hours. Her ears tilted in dry amusement. Do not worry, I did not record the drooling. I don't drool. I chose not to record the drooling, she repeated. SDELLA helpfully played back a short clip of soft snoring. Delete that, Ilias snapped. Denied, the AI said cheerfully. Kaya's shoulders shook. It might have been a laugh. This is better, she said, gesturing to the web. Now we can see where the storm is predictable and where it is creative. And if the creative parts suddenly get close enough to fry us, Ilias said, we'll at least die with interesting charts. It is all any scientist can ask, Kaya replied solemnly. They fell into a rhythm without quite discussing it. Mornings began with coffee, which she insisted on sampling despite declaring it an offense to chemistry every time. This tastes, she said on day 5, staring into her mug, like scorched regret. It's improved, Ilias said. Last month it tasted like melted batteries. She took another sip, eyeing him over the rim. And you willingly ingest this. Builds character. We have different definitions of character. Afternoons were for instrument checks and storm mapping. Kaya preferred working standing, always in motion, pacing between consoles like she was orchestrating multiple invisible bands. Elias, used to solitary shifts, found himself talking more just to keep up with her energy. Why xenophysics? He asked one day, watching her coax a reluctant secondary scanner into cooperating. Because everything else felt too small, she said, not looking up. On my world, you can spend your life studying one material, one reaction, one city. It is respectable, predictable, boring. She glanced over. You. I grew up under gray skies, he said. Storms were the only things that made the horizon look different. Figured if I was going to stare at chaos, it might as well be cosmic. She considered that, then nodded as if he had passed some private test. Acceptable answer. Evenings, if the instruments behaved, found them in the observation lounge. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't. Kaya would sit cross-legged on the rail, balancing like gravity hadn't fully committed to her. Elias would lean against the glass, watching the storm reflect in her eyes. Tell me about oceans, she said one night, words cutting through a comfortable silence. He blinked. They're big, wet, salty. Incredible poetry, she said dryly. I am overwhelmed. There's a lot of water, he said, trying again. Whole horizons of it, moving. The surface looks flat at a distance, but it's not. It's all texture, waves, wind. The sound gets into your bones. She shivered, but not like she was cold. We have methane seas, she said. They do not move like that, no waves, just slow tides under cloud cover. Beautiful, but, she gestured to the storm. Not like this. You've never seen an ocean, he asked. Not with my own eyes, she admitted. Only through your records, your species keeps pointing cameras at water like it expects it to disappear. He huffed a laugh. Sometimes it feels like it might. Kaya leaned back on her hands. It is strange, she said. In the archives, humans are always surrounded by others, crowded cities, packed ships, noise, you are rarely alone. But every time I meet one of you out here, you are in a tin can in a vacuum. Maybe that's the only way we shut up long enough to think, he said. Throw us into space and let the universe filter out the background noise. She looked at him for a long moment. And has it filtered you? Mostly, he said, until you arrived and started turning up the volume. The corner of her mouth lifted. You are welcome. The days blurred, not into monotony this time, but into a pattern that felt almost like routine. Predictable, but not dull. Elias caught himself listening for her footsteps in the corridor, for the soft, low humming she did when deep in thought. SDELLA, of course, noticed. Crew stress indicators decreased by 22% since Dr. Lyrin's arrival, the AI announced during a system check. Correlation is not causation, Elias muttered. In this case, Kaya said, it probably is. He rolled his eyes. Don't both of you gang up on me. You chose to live with an AI and a xenophysicist, she said. This is the consequence. That night, as he lay in his bunk staring at the ceiling, listening to the distant thrum of the storm, Elias woke to SDELLA's voice drifting through the dimness, gentle but insistent. Lieutenant Ward, Dr. Lyrin is requesting your presence in the upper sensor bay. He rubbed his eyes. Time. Early, but she describes the situation as, quote, possibly interesting, which in her dialect suggests urgency. That woke him. Kaya never summoned him unless something genuinely new had occurred. He shoved on a jacket, ran a hand through his hair, and moved quickly through the corridor toward the faint glimmer of active displays. She was standing at the central console when he arrived, posture tense, eyes pinned to a shifting mass of light. The air around her felt charged. Morning, he said, breath still catching. What's? Look, she interrupted, fingers sweeping through the projection. Just look. The holodisplay expanded into a three-dimensional cluster of oscillations, luminous threads blinking in and out of space. It looked like someone had trapped a fragment of lightning in a glass sphere. That's not storm activity, Elias said slowly. No. Kaya magnified the readings. It emerged 20 minutes ago, outside the storm's primary radius. Hovering at a fixed distance, and it is pulsing. The patterns weren't random. He could see that immediately. Structured bursts, rhythmic intervals, timed shifts. They repeated in sets. Offset, reset, refracted through themselves. It's too organized, he murmured. Too clean to be natural turbulence. Kaya nodded tightly. I checked for echoes, sensor backscatter, interference signatures. None. Whatever this is, it's real. He leaned closer. The pulses formed clusters of 3, then 5, then 3 again. His brain supplied a familiar shape before he consciously placed it. "Kaya," he said quietly, "those are primes." Her eyes flicked to him. "Yes." Repeated. "Yes." And intentional. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. SDELLA chimed softly. "I have verified the sequence. Statistical probability of random coincidence, less than 0.0003%. Elias exhaled. "So we have something out there that knows prime numbers. Or something that behaves in a pattern describable by them," Kaya said. But even she sounded unconvinced by the weaker explanation. The pulses shifted again, faster now. Sequence, pause, a slow rhythm forming underneath like a heartbeat. "What if it's trying to communicate?" Elias asked. Kaya bit her lip, the first sign he'd seen that she was genuinely rattled. "I don't know. But look at this." She expanded the display. The pulses overlapped with a faint secondary modulation barely visible. "What is that?" Elias asked. "It matches something," Kaya said. "Something familiar." SDELLA, overlay internal environmental frequencies. The anomaly's secondary pulses flashed to life, aligned perfectly with the station's life support cycles. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. "It's mirroring us." "Not mirroring," Kaya corrected. "Referencing, learning our baseline rhythms, it has been watching us." "How long?" She hesitated. "Look at the time signature." They stared. The anomaly's earliest detectable whisper aligned exactly with the day Kaya had arrived on Hellion 4. SDELLA spoke quietly. "It escalated its pattern only when both of you were present." Silence settled, heavy and strange. "So it waited for us," Elias said. "Or it only recognized us together," Kaya murmured. "Storm mapping. Data restructuring. Our patterns became clearer when interacting with each other. It may have needed both signals." He couldn't help a rueful breath. "Great. Even cosmic anomalies don't think I'm interesting alone." Kaya shot him an exasperated look. "Focus." The anomaly brightened, dissolving the moment. They watched its pulses reform into a new variation, a longer burst pattern looping back into itself. "That looks like an answer," Elias said. Kaya straightened. "We haven't asked a question yet." "Maybe we did," SDELLA said, "by noticing." Another pulse swept through the projection, clean, crisp, unmistakable. Kaya whispered, "It's waiting." Elias swallowed. "What does protocol say?" "Protocol," Kaya said flatly, "was written for full research teams in well-monitored space. Not two scientists and an AI sitting in a metal can 6 light hours from anyone who might scold us." "That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be." The pulses repeated, slower now. "Deliberate." Kaya's voice softened. "It's not hostile. If it meant harm, it could have phased into the storm, amplified the flux, ruptured us from a distance. It hasn't. Then what does it want?" "For us to acknowledge it," she said. "Nothing intelligent repeats itself this persistently unless it is asking to be seen." Elias took a slow breath. "So we respond." Kaya turned to him fully, eyes bright with a mixture of caution and wonder. "Yes, we respond carefully." SDELLA dimmed the lights slightly, a gesture Elias had never seen the AI do. "I will prepare a narrowbeam array." Kaya's expression softened. "Use mathematics, simplicity, no interpretation." Elias nodded. "We answer its primes." But Kaya added, "We elaborate by one, show understanding, not just imitation." Elias hesitated only a moment before speaking. "SDELLA, prepare the transmission." "Ready," the AI replied. Kaya's fingers hovered above the console. Elias felt the strange, suspended quiet of moments that define entire futures. She exhaled, "Send it." The station hummed as the narrowbeam fired. Encoded sequences streamed into the void. For a moment, nothing. Then the anomaly flared, every display in the lab erupted in light. The pulses multiplied, accelerating, weaving into intricate new lattices. The storm outside rippled in response. Kaya whispered, "It heard us." Elias stared, breath held, as the pulses reorganized themselves again, this time forming a pattern unmistakably derived from their transmission. They spent the next hour in a state that didn't have an official research term. Something between awe and terror, threaded with the absurd domesticity of needing to refill coffee while conversing with a sentient pattern of light. The anomaly's responses settled into a tempo. It echoed their primes, then shifted them, curling sequences back on themselves. When they sent geometric ratios, it answered with new combinations, like a student who grasped the lesson instantly and then started improvising. It's not just solving, Elias said quietly. It's playing. Kaya adjusted a filter, watching the pulses rearrange into a spiraling helix. Intelligence plus curiosity, she murmured. The most dangerous combination. Stella's voice held a note Elias had never heard before. Dangerous for whom? For our assumptions, Kaya said. If energy can do this without mass, your physics text will cry. My physics texts cried a long time ago, Elias muttered. By the third exchange, the anomaly began to anticipate their patterns. It shortened gaps, shifted phases right as they were encoding responses, as if tapping its fingers on the cosmic desk, impatient. Elias rubbed his face. It's eager. Good, Kaya said. I would hate to think we risked insubordination for something indifferent. He glanced at her. You realize command is going to have a collective aneurysm when they see these logs. Then we simply delay sending them, she said, until the data is too compelling to punish us. That's not how military hierarchy works. That is exactly how scientific hierarchy works, she replied. We will confuse them into gratitude. He snorted despite the pounding in his chest. They broke only when Stella dimmed the displays slightly. Crew glucose levels are suboptimal, the AI announced. I recommend refueling before you attempt further paradigm shifts. Kaya blinked as if remembering she had a body. Food, she said. Yes, that thing. In the tiny galley, the synthesizer whined as it attempted to turn nutrient packs into something chewable. Kaya leaned against the counter, arms folded, staring at the narrow window where the storm cast restless shadows. What are you thinking? Elias asked, stabbing at the grayish block that claimed to be stew. That we are not equipped, she said. 2 people, 1 AI, a malfunctioning food unit, and an anomaly that may be the first non-biological intelligence we've met. She glanced at him, and that you look surprisingly calm for someone disassembling his own textbooks. Give me an hour, he said, the panic's still buffering. Her mouth twitched, honesty how novel. They ate in relative silence, broken only by the synthesizer's occasional cough and Stella humming storm chords under her breath, apparently still processing. When they returned to the lab, the anomaly had not moved. Its pulses had slowed, like someone drumming fingers on a table, waiting. Kaya exhaled. It stayed. Did you think it would leave? Elias asked if we were uninteresting. She tilted her head. Perhaps we still are, and it is simply very patient. He watched her as she approached the console, hands hovering above the controls with unusual hesitation. Kaya, he said. Yes. He gestured at the projection. You've been chasing something like this your whole career, haven't you? She didn't answer immediately. Her reflection in the hollow looked tired and fierce. On my world, she said finally, our great fear is that the universe is quieter than we are, that we will fill it with our own noise and never hear anything back. Her gaze slid to the pulsing cluster. Today, the universe said present. I am recalibrating. Is it everything you imagined? No, she said, it's stranger, which is better. They crafted their next response more carefully. Instead of just primes and shapes, Kaya suggested encoding a simplified representation of the station. A dot for Hellion 4, a looping arc for its orbit around the gas giant, the storm as a glowing ring. Will it understand? Elias asked. If it's really been watching, she said, it already has. This is courtesy. We show what we think we are. He helped encode the pattern, each addition making his pulse climb. The final burst went out, their tiny schematic flung into the vastness. The anomaly's reply took longer this time. For several minutes it pulsed in its previous rhythm, then dropped into near stillness. Data streams thinned to a trickle. Did we confuse it? Elias asked. Good, Kaya said. Confusion is the first step toward learning. He gave her a sideways look. You really do hum when you're thinking, you know. She stopped mid-note, startled. Do I? Every time something bothers you, he nodded toward the projection, like now. Her ears angled slightly back. My people use binding songs when coaxing unstable structures into cooperation, she said. I suppose my brain has assigned you both to that category. Both, you and the anomaly, she replied, as if that were obvious. Before he could decide how to feel about being grouped with a storm ghost, the anomaly flared. This time its pulses unfolded slowly, like petals opening. The pattern it sent back was dense, complex, coiled around itself in ways that made his eyes throb. We can't parse that, Elias said after a few seconds. Not fast enough. We don't have to, Kaya murmured. Watch the overall shape. He squinted. Beneath the dizzying detail, the larger structure emerged. Not a dot, not a ring, not an orbit. A network. Nodes connected in branching webs, some bright, some dim. No clear center, no edges. It sent us its map, he whispered. Or itself, she said. Or its idea of self, no core, only relations. SDELLA adjusted the visualization, dimming extraneous lines. It does not appear to occupy a single location, the AI said. Its pattern echoes across multiple points inside the storm and beyond it. I cannot define where it ends. Kaya's face lit with a kind of feral joy. Non-local awareness, she breathed. A distributed consciousness. Elias, do you understand what this means? That I'm never going to sleep again. That your idea of individual may be quaint, she said. It might not understand us either. To it, we must look like nodes forced to stay in one place. Lonely nodes, he said, her gaze sharpened. You keep coming back to that loneliness. He shrugged, throat tight. Easy theme out here. Kaya's expression softened for the briefest moment. Less now than it was. Before he could answer, SDELLA intruded. Our new acquaintance has altered its secondary modulation. Kaya snapped back to the projection. The faint echo that matched Hellion 4 life support cycles had shifted, tightening around the rhythm of their power draw. Another trace wrapped more tightly around. Is that, Elias started? Your heart rates, SDELLA confirmed. It has refined its reference frame. It is using you as its timing base. He felt absurdly like something vast had just placed a hand on his shoulder. It's syncing to us, he said. Kaya's jaw clenched. Which means we are now part of its context. However it thinks about this storm, it will remember we were here. That's a lot of responsibility. It is also too late to back out, she said. He thought of the question he'd flung back at her earlier. Is this still just data to you? He asked quietly. Or are we in it now? In it, she said without hesitation. Deeply, which is inconvenient. And exactly what I wanted when I signed up for this posting. They stayed at the consoles until their eyes burned and their shoulders ached. Kaya's humming threaded softly under SDELLA's status reports, under the storm's distant roar. Hours later, when he finally stumbled toward his bunk, Elias paused in the... Elias didn't dream that night, or if he did, the dreams were made of pulses, bright, rhythmic, threading through the dark like the anomaly's afterimage burned into the backs of his eyes. He woke before SDELLA called him, heart already beating a little too fast, as if his body were still trying to sync with something outside the station. Kaya was already in the lab when he arrived, her posture unusually still, not tense. Not anxious, focused, the way someone looks when they have said yes to a risk they can't take back. You're early, he said softly. You're late, she murmured without looking up. By 19 seconds. He blinked, you counted. I'm recalibrating personal time. She pointed at the central display. It's active again. The anomaly pulsed on screen, but not in the sharp, playful bursts from the previous night. This was slower, deeper, like it was thinking. Or dreaming. Each pulse was longer, swelling outward before collapsing back into itself. It's changing phase state, Kaya whispered. Not leaving, just shifting. Elias frowned. Why? Because it received more information than it expected. She tapped the console lightly. We showed it us. The cluster rippled, and a faint secondary vibration appeared, subtle, barely measurable, but it carried unmistakable structure. SDELLA magnified it. It is transmitting two sequences simultaneously. Kaya leaned forward. Readouts. One, SDELLA said, is consistent with its previous communication. The second maps against your breathing rates. Elia's stomach tightened. Mine. Yours, SDELLA affirmed. Kaya S as well, but yours more strongly. Kaya exhaled slowly. It's stabilizing around the two of us, using us as anchors. Elias stared at the pulsing mass of light. Why me more than you? You talk when you think, she said. It has more of your rhythms to work with. That's embarrassing. Accurate, she said. Before he could argue, the anomaly flashed in a bright, condensed burst, a sharp triangle of pulses, then expanded outward in what looked like a spreading ring. Kaya froze, it's requesting feedback. What kind of feedback? Her eyes narrowed. Emotional state. Elias almost choked. How would it even? It can't read emotion directly, she said, but it can infer patterns from physiological outputs. Heart rhythm, breath, micro fluctuations of temperature. Humans broadcast those constantly. She paused. You broadcast more than most. Again, he said, embarrassing. Useful, Kaya corrected. We needed something it could interpret. You provided it. Elias watched the anomaly's pulse flatten slightly, a waiting gesture. "So what do we do?" he asked. "Send a mood." Kaya considered him for a long moment, studying him with that intense, analytical stare that always made his throat tighten. "We send truth," she said finally. "Not interpretation. Data. Honesty in the only language it can measure." She stepped close enough that he felt her warmth. "Breathe, just normally, let it read you." "That feels invasive." "It is," she agreed. "But it's also the first bridge we've ever built with something that is alive in any way we understand. And we have to decide if we cross it." Her voice lowered. "Elias, I won't do this without you." He swallowed. "You need me for the signal." "I need you for the honesty," she said. He wasn't sure how to answer that, so he didn't. He pulled in a slow breath and focused on the display. Kaya entered a command. The station lights dimmed slightly as SDELLA rerouted system bandwidth. Elias felt the faint hum of sensors activating, a soft pressure along his arms, chest, jaw. The anomaly rippled, once, twice, then matched him. Elias felt it not physically, not in any measurable biological sense, but the awareness of alignment hit him like a shift in gravity. His breath synced with the pulses. His heart rate steadied. He wasn't controlling it, the pattern around him was. Kaya watched the readings, eyes wide. "It's resonating with you." "That's not voluntary." "No," she whispered. "It chose you." The anomaly brightened suddenly, surging with intensity. SDELLA's systems flickered, then stabilized. "It's attempting higher-level pattern exchange," the AI reported. "It is very loud." Kaya stepped beside Elias, shoulder brushing his. "It's trying to show us something." The projection twisted, unfolding like a blooming fractile. A waveform emerged, but not one from the storm, nor from the anomaly's previous sequences. A third pattern, smooth, cyclical. Rising and falling like. Kaya's breath hitched. "That's singing." Elias stared, "But it's listening to my humming," she whispered, horrified and awed all at once. "It's been recording it, integrating it, translating it into itself." On the display, the waveform intertwined with the anomaly's pulses, her melody, stretched and refracted into something impossibly alien. Elias felt something cold and hot and strange swell in his chest, all mixed with fear, mixed with something more delicate. "Kaya, it heard you." "No," she said. "It understood me." The anomaly flashed again, this time sending a layered sequence that SDELLA struggled to decode. "It appears," the AI said slowly, "to be asking." "Asking what?" Elias demanded. Kaya's eyes tracked the repeating shapes. Her voice trembled slightly. "It wants to know if we are one unit." Elias blinked. "A team." "No," Kaya said softly. "A singular pattern, a linked pair. It doesn't understand individual minds the way we do." Her throat bobbed. "It's asking if we function as a combined structure." Elias felt his pulse spike. The anomaly responded instantly, pulsing brighter. "Great," he muttered. "It's reading my panic." Kaya grasped his wrist, grounding him. "Elias, breathe." The anomaly dimmed, matching his slower inhale. Kaya exhaled. "It thinks we're connected." "We are working on the same project," he said weakly. "That is not what it means." He stared at her. "Then what does it mean?" Kaya didn't answer immediately. Her expression was caught between scientific wonder and something more vulnerable. "Elias," she finally said, "it thinks we are resonant." He hadn't understood the word the first time she'd used it. He understood it now. Because the anomaly pulsed again, a low, steady rhythm, and Elias felt Kaya's hand tighten around his, their breath sinking unintentionally, their patterns aligning in a way neither of them had consented to but both felt deeply. The anomaly waited, pulsing gently, asking, not in words, but clearly, "Are you one?" Kaya looked at him, searching his face, something unguarded flickering in her amber eyes. He realized in that moment that the anomaly didn't just Elias realized he stopped breathing. The anomaly waited, its pulses a low, patient thrum that filled the lab without making a sound. Every rise and fall of its light aligned with his own heartbeat, with the faint tremor in Kaya's fingers around his wrist. The station felt smaller than it had ever felt, two beings, one AI, and something vast pressing against the edges of understanding. "Log this," SDELLA said quietly, "as unclassified until further notice." "No logs," Kaya said, voice sharper than he'd ever heard it. "Not yet." Elias tore his eyes away from the display and focused on her. She was looking at him the way she looked at complex equations and faulty hardware, carefully as if one wrong touch might break something irreparably. "You don't have to answer," he said, throat dry. "We can fake it, Send a decoy pattern, pretend I'm just a very talkative sensor. Kaya's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. The anomaly already knows that is a lie. It has been listening longer than command ever has. Then we keep it simple. He forced the words out. We tell it we're two separate signals working together, nothing more. Her gaze didn't waver. Is that true? His heart stumbled. The anomaly brightened in response, as if leaning in. He wished, abruptly and fiercely, for the old boredom back, for flux charts and bad coffee and days when the most complicated question was whether a wiring fault was in panel C or panel D. Instead, he had this: an alien structure made of light, an AI developing opinions, and a colleague whose presence had rewired his internal baseline. Kaya's hand slid from his wrist down to his palm, fingers threading through his. It was a practical grip, the kind you used while crossing narrow walkways in low gravity. It also was. In my culture, she said slowly, we do not answer questions like this quickly, we measure. We wait through different seasons, different pressures. We see what holds when the environment changes. Space doesn't have seasons, he said, because humor was easier than honesty. You are one, she countered. You at 6 months alone are not the same as you now. Her thumb moved once absently against his skin. I prefer this version. He swallowed. You still haven't answered. Neither have you. The anomaly pulsed again. The secondary trace tightened around their heart rhythms, then loosened, as if testing elasticity. SDELLA, Kaya said, eyes never leaving his. Can we control what it reads from us? To a degree, the AI replied. I can restrict certain biometric channels, but it will still observe gross patterns, movement, proximity, heat. So we cannot hide that we are in the same room, Kaya murmured. Good, I am tired of hiding. She took a deeper breath, and Elias felt her steady herself like she did before making a difficult cut in a tangled system. All right, she said to him, but also to the anomaly, to the storm, to herself. We answer like scientists, not like poets. Meaning, accurately with margins of error. She squeezed his hand once and then deliberately took a half step back. Their fingers stretched, then parted, leaving behind a trace of warmth. The anomaly's light flickered but did not dim. SDELLA, Kaya said. Bring up a dual-channel biofeed, heart and breath, overlay them. The display split. 2 waveforms appeared, one labeled Ward, one LEREN. From a distance they looked almost identical, rising, falling, speeding, slowing. Up close they were clearly distinct. Similar tempo, different signatures. This is us, Kaya said quietly. Not one pattern, two, correlated, not merged. Elias watched the lines dance. His breath had unconsciously synchronized with hers during the last hour. Now he let it fall out of step by a fraction, half a beat behind. Not rejection, just truth. He was not an extension of her. She was not an accessory to him. Whatever they were, it wasn't singular. Can you transmit that? She asked. Yes, SDELLA said. Encoding now. I will tag correlation coefficient, variability range, and independence metrics. Make sure it sees the independence, Kaya said. That matters. It may be disappointed, the AI observed. Then it is ready to meet the universe, she replied. Elias huffed a weak breath. We're about to disappoint a non-local energy consciousness because we're not one person. That's on brand. Kaya glanced at him. Do you want to be one person? No, he said too quickly, then forced himself to slow down. I like being me, I like you being you, I just also like whatever this is. He gestured vaguely between them. Resonance, alignment, whatever your 7 words would call it. Her expression softened, losing some of its defensive angles. We have a word for patterns that influence each other without collapsing, she said. It translates badly. The closest is co-orbit. Co-orbit, he repeated. Not crash, not merge, just pulled by the same gravity. Exactly. She turned back to the anomaly. We will not lie to it and call that one, but we can show it the pull. SDELLA sent the encoded pattern. Elias felt nothing physically change, but the anomaly's pulse faltered for the first time since it had appeared. The bright cluster dimmed, then flared in a series of jagged bursts that made the lab's shadows jump. Did we offend the storm ghost? He muttered. Hush, Kaya said, but very softly. The jagged bursts smoothed out. New threads emerged from the anomaly's core, connecting different parts of its network. The projection zoomed out automatically, showing more of its structure than before. It looked messy. Not the clean, crystalline lattice it had shown earlier, but something more uneven, with gaps and asymmetries and half-built bridges. SDELLA's voice dropped to a hushed register. It is showing us its own correlation coefficients. There are nodes that resonate more strongly with each other than with the whole. Kaya's eyes widened. It has preferences. Relationships, Elia said. Not singularity, she corrected. Not uniform, it is telling us it is not one either. It is many, learning how to co-orbit. The anomaly sent a final sequence, a flattened representation of its lattice with two nodes highlighted, then a crude imitation of their dual waveform beside it. The similarity wasn't precise, but the intent radiated from it. It's saying, Elias whispered, I have this too. Resonance without erasure, Kaya said. Her voice shook once. It understands us better than half my academy lectures did. SDELLA logged the exchange in quiet awe. We have just established a shared concept of non-unitary connection with a distributed energy intelligence, the AI said. I lack an appropriate celebratory protocol. I suggest not exploding, Elia said. It's working so far. They let the systems record in silence for a while, watching the anomaly's light settle into a new baseline. Its pulses still referenced their rhythms, but less tightly, a respectful distance instead of a grip. Kaya eventually straightened, rolling her shoulders. We should rest, she said. Exhaustion and paradigm shifts mix poorly. If I lie down now, Elia said, my brain is going to rewound this for hours. Better in a bunk than at a console, she replied. You snore. I do not. SDELLA has evidence. I have deleted it, the AI lied. Kaya's mouth curved, genuine amusement peeking through the fatigue. She turned to leave the bay, then hesitated and looked back at him. Elias, she said. Yeah. For the record, she said carefully, if we were just colleagues, the anomaly's question would have been easy to answer. So the fact that it was, is data, she finished. We can analyze it later, slowly, in different environments, like responsible scientists. He nodded, pulse settling into something that wasn't quite calm, but wasn't panic anymore. Co-orbit, she agreed. She stepped out into the corridor. After a moment, he followed. Outside the viewport, the storm continued its endless dance around the gas giant, lightning veining through clouds the size of continents. The anomaly held its position at the edge, dimmer now, but steady. If Elias squinted, he could almost believe its pulses matched not just his breath, but the rise and fall of something larger. Hellion 4 tiny orbit, the slow spin of the planet, the invisible paths of others who might someday come this way. SDELLA waited until both their doors had hissed shut before speaking, quietly logging the final note of the cycle. End of provisional session, she said to herself. Status, still alone, but less so. In the hours that followed, Hellion 4 didn't change its trajectory. The mission specs remained what they'd always been. Observe the storm, map its anomalies, send back data. But the work had shifted. They were no longer just measuring a violent sky. They were part of someone else's map. Days later, when Command finally received their first heavily redacted report and promptly filled the return channel with alarmed questions, Elias and Kaya were back in the lab, arguing over how best to encode uncertainty into a waveform. We can't just send noise, he said. That's rude. Uncertainty is not noise, she replied. It is structure we haven't resolved yet. He grinned, tired and content. You're starting to sound human. You, she said, are starting to sound less alone. SDELLA cut into their bickering. Anomaly is pulsing in the amused pattern, she reported, commenting perhaps on your stubbornness. Kaya glanced at Elias. See, co-orbit. 3 bodies now. Terrifying, he said, but he was smiling when he said it. Outside, the storm rolled on, uncaring and magnificent. Inside, 2 scientists, an AI and a sentient pattern of light continued their strange, careful experiment, discovering how far honesty could reach when flung into an indifferent universe. It turned out, with enough patience, it could go remarkably far, especially when carried by more than one heartbeat.